I know your music is often described just as pop in this little box of pop, but how do you tend to describe the music that you make?
I do typically say sad pop, and that I kind of explain it as it's the beats and the type of instrumentals I'll be on are pretty straightforward pop, and a little bit left of center, like guitar heavy, I'll say too. But I think the difference is that all of my songs are very introspective, and they're written about things that are incredibly important to me. And the way that that's different than a lot of other people's pop music is that I think you can hear the intentionality behind it. And so I would say that it's kind of self-aware, and it's kind of um like I said, introspective. But I typically just say sad boy pop music to anybody who has no idea what type of music I make, you know?
Well, who were some of the music artists that influenced you when you were growing up?
For me, it was early days, it was Ed Sheeran Passenger, and then high school it was like Billie Eilish and a lot of rap music. That was like early high school. It was like either really sad singer-songwriter, indie instrumental type, just like really sad people music, or like hard rap that we would listen to in the football lockers. And then near the end of high school, I started producing my own music, and it was all like Jeremy Zucker, Chelsea Cutler, Alexander 23 type music that I was listening to, and like using all of those references to produce my own songs because I knew a lot of those artists are doing it all themselves.
Well, we'll get to that further a little bit. You have this new single, Everything is Quiet, out now. What's the inspiration behind the song?
I wrote that about my girlfriend, and it was all around tour. The inspiration behind that was I wrote it from the perspective of I'm on tour and I'm missing you at home, but I actually wrote it before I left, and it was just the thought. I tried to package together all of my feelings that I was feeling at the time about being away from her, trying to build a life that would be fantastic for the both of us to live together, but also knowing that the being away and the working hard is kind of bad for the relationship as well. And I felt like on that song specifically, I didn't enter the studio trying to write about that. It just kind of ended up being the way that things came out. But I'd say it's kind of an apology for being away, and kind of a song just about how I feel about her and how I want to set up our future together to be the best it could possibly be.
Well, that begs the question, what was her first thoughts when she heard it? How
She
many
loved it.
boxes of tissues did she get through?
She loved it. Yes, she did cry. And it was like I came home from the studio with like a snippet of it, and she loved it. And specifically her favorite part was the you got me smiling in the song, because she knows that I can be kind of serious at times, and she really enjoyed hearing that song. I think it was great for our relationship too. I feel like she needed to
Sure.
hear that, especially as I was right about to go on tour. Like it was nice for her to know that I'm committed and all that stuff in a way that's a deeper way of expressing that than just telling her, you know?
I mean, did they have a cloning thing for you yet so that we can have more boyfriends like this? I don't know who I need to speak to, but if there's some sort of manifesting thing in the world, more of us need some Bradens in our lives.
I wish I could. I wish I could.
You have a brother, something like
I
this? Maybe.
do. I actually all of my siblings are in long-term relationships as well. So that doesn't help you, but
No, but
I
yes, that's right. It doesn't help. But
yeah.
what kind of fan response have you been getting to the song? Certainly, I'm sure you're getting videos or maybe at least comments from people who are saying that it's how they reflect in it, or maybe how they see their own relationships in it.
Yeah, I've seen people. I think the majority of the comments that I've seen is people are excited to see me happy, and writing about this type of stuff. There's been less, I would say, for this song, people commenting being like, "This is exactly my story," but it seems like people are connecting with it kind of in their own way. It is a very specific song about my own life and about the life of a musician, and so I can see how that would be harder for them to connect to, but. I specifically love looking through the videos that people make on their own using my music, and looking through those, and realizing how like that, seeing the faces that I'm impacting with the song, like seeing the people who are really connecting with it, and seeing how they interact with the song is really nice. But in my comments, there's been way less people that are like, this is exactly my relationship, you know? Whereas in the past, there's been probably more of that with different songs.
I'm sure. Well, I'm curious then, what is your songwriting process typically? Do you have a typical process at all, per se? Like you need to have lyrics before you can craft a melody around it, things like that? Or is there no typical way you usually write a song?
There's a typical way in the sense that I try to pull up to the studio with a completely empty mind. And the thing that I'll typically do first is find a chord progression or an instrumental loop or something that will inspire me to feel a certain way. And and that is the most important part is listening at the beginning of the session and finding something that is resonating with something inside of me because I am not as good as at pulling up and being like pulling up to the studio and saying, I want to write this song about this and it's going to take this turn and this is everything that we're going to do today. It really takes for me to hear inside of whatever instrumental I'm hearing to feel that like somewhere in my chest and then write a line that kind of follows that feeling. And I discover the song as I write it. And it's funny you should say lyrics versus melody is like what comes first because I do them together. Like this will just be I'll focus on that feeling and just start kind of going through melodies in my head and those melodies always have words on them. And then I'll kind of spit them out and catch them and then edit them into like saying exactly what I want them to say. And that's been the way that works for me. And it's all very like vibe heavy. And then I really enjoy too when I'm writing the song and the producer in the session if I'm not producing the song and the producer is building the beat while I'm writing the words, it all kind of comes together in a way of synergy where we're both creating the same song at the same time and I love that like creative flow. So really it's just pick the instrumental that makes me feel something and start writing and then everyone kind of does their thing and everyone's process kind of gets involved with each other's.
You touched a bit about production. Why is it so important for you to be so hands-on for the music that you make?
I think that I see production as a second set of lyrics, and the difference in production on a song can change how people perceive it. For example, I think that the production of a song is like the outfit that the song is wearing, and whatever is underneath that outfit is still the bones of it are fantastic, and the person and whatever's underneath the outfit is perfect and is raw and is real and is very vulnerable and naked, and kind of how you dress up that song will affect its perception and also affect how well you're coming across, you know? And so I think that there's a lot of production, there's ways that you can play off of the lyrics with production that I think are really important to make the whole thing feel together and feel like a solid unit of work. And um it's really just it's really just important that whatever is under that production can still shine through whatever the production is. And I always try to make sure that that can happen and that the song feels how it's intended to feel.
My goodness, it's very impressive. I'm curious, is this a prelude with Everything is Quiet to a full album or an EP you've been working on crafting at these points?
We are working on an EP and we're rolling that out as we move forward through this year. And we're kind of taking it one song at a time for now, and we're building into a bigger project. But I do enjoy the fact that I write EPs because I never know exactly what I'm going to write about. Typically, a certain number of songs from a certain period of time will all relate to each other because it's just my life, you know? And so we're building this EP that is starting to kind of take its own shape as we go. And we'll be releasing the first few songs of that EP as we keep going through the year, and then a few at the same time later. But yes, we are working on an EP, and I kind of have to leave the rest up to mystery because of the fact that we're still figuring out exactly what that's going to mean, you know? And I love that it's all fluid and that I can just figure out what this is leading to as we get there, you know? I feel like I'm watching my own career happen as well as everybody else's.
That begs the question, then will there be any collaborations on it, or have you not really figured everything out so much yet about this part here, this part there. You're just working on crafting songs for the time being.
I would love for some collaborations to be on that. I've started writing with other people more, and I would love for there to be a collaboration on the EP. And it all just kind of boils down to when I make these songs with these people, do they feel like they fit, you know? And so I would love to do one. And there's certain artists that I would love to have on a song, and we're gonna figure out if that can happen or not as we move forward into it.
Who would you love to work with then on a song in the future? Not necessarily if you don't have a singer in mind, but maybe production wise, would there someone?
I would love to work with Chelsea Cutler specifically. I think she would be like a fantastic person to work with. And I've spoken with her at different times too. She's lovely, and I think that our vibes would go together really well on a song. Producer wise, I've really been focusing in with the people that I made Everything Is Quiet, and most of the stuff that I'm teasing now has been made with some of my friends here in Nashville. That's Taylor Biley and Dom Martinez, and we've been working a lot together. And we did a little trip to a cabin in the woods for 4 or 5 days and cranked out like 9 songs. And I've really just been enjoying songwriting and music creation, not from the point perspective of like let's do a session, of the perspective of it's just me and my friends hanging out and making music. And that's been really positively, it's very positively impacted the way that I view music and my own relationship with music. So I think just locking in with them more and making more music that makes me happy is the goal for this year.
What a wonderful plan to have. Absolutely. Professionally and, of course, creatively, it must be great and cathartic for you to get everything off your chest that way.
Yeah, for sure. Feels like a safe space with some close friends to
Sure.
with.
With some new music right now, maybe you have some shows, little production, little venues will be popping up at by chance.
We don't have anything planned currently. I would love to go on a tour this fall. We're kind of trying to figure out what this fall is going to look like for me, whether that's another support tour or some of my own shows. We don't have that figured out yet, but we are figuring it out as we speak, and that is kind of top of mind right now as we go into this release stuff. I would love to do some shows after my EP comes out, and we are trying to make that happen.
All right. Well, what would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of this beautiful music you make?
I would like to say that be ready to keep your eyes open and keep an open mind towards my music. I'm connecting with kind of different parts of myself recently, and that is making for some very different music and subject matter than I've done in the past. And I would say that if you're a fan of me for what I've done in the past, it's different than that now a little bit. And so keep an open mind when you're listening to my new stuff, and um and I feel like you're going to get to know me a lot more this year because of the types of things that I feel like talking about.